Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I'm here today in Tallinn, Estonia, by the gracious invitation of the Estonian Defense Forces, specifically the Support Command Supply Battalion. And we are taking a look at the current standard issue Estonian designated marksman's rifle, the R20L. This is an LMT manufactured, essentially it's an AR-10. It's a 7.62 NATO short stroke piston system AR rifle. Estonia, just a couple of years ago, had a tender and contract for both a new infantry rifle and a new designated marksman's rifle. They had to be the same platform. The platform turned out to be LMT's gas piston AR. So they got a 5.56 infantry rifle and this as their DMR. Now, Estonia's infantry organization, all the way back to when they retook their independence in the early 1990s, has always had, typically a 9-man infantry squad that includes one designated marksman with a 7.62 rifle. Now, historically, there have been a variety of different guns that were used by the designated marksman, from Norwegian bolt actions to guns like the AK-4TP, G3 pattern sniper like this guy. All of those have been replaced in service by the R20L. So let's take a closer look at it. Let me show you some of the details of what they are using now. What we have here is a short stroke piston AR-10 patterned rifle. Markings on the receiver, we have here, of course, LMT's markings, caliber 7.62. The model designation is the TA-20 Rahe. Rahe is Estonian for hail, as in hailstones. They had a couple years where they were naming military equipment after weather phenomena. Kind of cool. And then the serial number, which of course begins with an EE prefix, and then TA for the TA-20 designated marksman's pattern, and the serial number. As with the infantry rifles, these have fully ambidextrous controls, and it's also interesting to point out that they have select fire trigger groups. So that's not 2-round burst, it is safe, semi, and unlimited full auto. There was a supposition that, like, in a worst case sort of scenario, you can crank the scope here down to 3 power, you can set it to full auto, you have a bipod on the gun, and it could serve as an emergency squad support weapon in that role. So that's, I suppose, I don't know if that's the reason that they're in full auto, but it is a justification for having the full auto capacity. Obviously, when in use as a DMR, the gun stays in semi. A few features out at the front. The rifles have Harris bipods on them. Standard for all the DMRs. The muzzle device is the same as that used on the 5.56 guns, and the suppressors for them are 7.62 caliber suppressors. They can be used interchangeably on either the rifles or the DMRs. The scope here is a Schmidt Bender PM2 3-12 power, a fantastic scope that is mounted in a Spuhr scope mount, also a fantastic scope mount. I suspect that the scope and mount combination actually probably cost more than the rifle. Note we do also have a bubble level. I don't have a way to get a good camera angle on it, but there is a bubble level built into the scope mount to help ensure the gun is level, prevent windage issues when shooting at long range. And just like the 5.56 rifles come with backup iron sights, the 7.62 DMRs do as well. But because there's no way to quickly remove the optic in an emergency, the backup iron sights are mounted at an offset 45-degree angle. There have been a few issues with the rollout of the 7.62 rifles. The most substantial of one was an issue found with the gas blocks, where this would occasionally actually go flying down range if it had been shot enough. This is the gas plug, gas piston, and its return spring, and the issue was that the gas blocks were made very similar in dimension to the 5.56 gas blocks, even though 7.62 has a substantially higher pressure. And with enough shooting, this section right here would fail. The rib here on the gas plug is made out of a stronger material. It would actually push out this ridge, and that would allow the gas plug to go down range. So a bunch of the problem guns were sent back to LMT. The gas blocks were replaced with one that had a stronger material spec and a slightly longer plug, or a slightly longer ridge right here. That solved the problem. That is exemplary of the sort of initial rollout technical problem that is pretty much guaranteed to happen in every new rifle procurement ever. It's always just a question of, you know, what's the problem that we're going to find that just wasn't discovered during early testing. There's always something, and that's what it was on the R5L. For magazines, really not surprisingly at all, the R20L uses a standard 20-round 308 PMag. For ammunition, they don't currently issue a special precision cartridge. They use standard 7.62 NATO ball ammunition. On a unit-by-unit basis, sometimes guys will procure better ammunition, something by a company like Lapua. But as far as the overall military logistics are concerned, these use standard machine gun ball ammo. The accuracy spec for the rifles, when used with precision ammo for testing, is, it's kind of a weird designation, but it calculates out to 2.2 MOA, which is, I think, a very reasonable accuracy requirement for a gun like this. A lot of people will look at it and say, you know, oh, if it's not a 1 MOA rifle, it's worthless. The reality of the fact is it is extremely difficult for people to actually shoot 1 MOA, and the compromises in cost and other technical elements that you have to make to get a truly 1 MOA rifle are, in most perhaps, circumstances not worth the trade-offs. So frankly, 2.2 seems totally reasonable and effective to me. In total, about 700 of these R20Ls were procured by Estonia as part of their new rifle procurement. They came into the country side by side with the 5.56 infantry rifles, so between mid-2020 and late 2023. So really, they represent a significant evolution of the Estonian DMR capability, going from, like previous to this, some of the guns literally were bolt-action Mausers built on World War II receivers. Some of them were G3 patterns with optics and mounts, you know, the old claw mount with 4-power scopes. And some of them were outright less desirable variations on the M14. And with the R20, with the R20L, Estonia has really substantially stepped up its DMR game to something that is totally on par with any other 308 precision or 308 DMR rifle on the market now. Great scopes, great mounts, great rifle. Like it's in service and doing its job now. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I'd like to give a big thanks to the Estonian Defense Forces, specifically the Supply Battalion, for giving me access to this guy to take a look at and show to you. Thanks for watching.